So hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to actually share with you what are the components that make up a private property purchase. I think I've come across many buyers, whether you're a HDB upgrader or first timer. I don't think many people really know how their money works for them in the private property market. So I'm going to break it down. If you are looking to buy a private property, this video is for you. Alright, so hi everyone, this is Mr. Joshua Tan and welcome back to my channel. So without further ado, I'm going to break down this video. Okay, so this video basically we want to discuss on one thing, and that is your purchase components. When you buy a private property, there are three main components. Okay, first we are going to talk about your entry, and this has got to do with your entry cost. Okay, your entry cost will consist of what? Your buyer's stamp duty. Your buyer stamp duty, your legal fees. And for private property, when you buy in Singapore, right, there is no commissions payable. The commission is payable by the seller side. Okay, secondly, you have your holding cost, which is actually your monthly mortgage. Okay, and then your property tax, your MCST, and of course your other miscellaneous like your SP or power, your Wi-Fi, and so on and so forth, which are kind of needed, but they are not exactly to do with the direct property cost. Now over here, if you see monthly mortgage, okay, actually there are two components. So this is the part where I think many people don't really get it. Some might do, especially if you are a seasoned investor, but this goes to two components, and that is your basically a contribution goes to your principal, which forms what? Your equity. Okay, which means that this amount, if assuming your monthly mortgage is 4.6k, just for instance, your principal, maybe let's say I just, for the sake of this video, I put okay, let's say I put 50-50 just for the sake of this video, 2.3k. And then the other half of your money mortgage, it goes to your interest. This is paid to the bank. Okay, so this is also 2.3k, which means that every month when you make your payments to the bank, okay, 4.6, 2.3 goes to principal, you're depositing into your property, okay, whereby this amount, when you exit, right, you can take it back. So if it's 2.3k per month, let's say 2.3 times 12, we have 27,600. This amount per year you hold for 4 years, 110k, $400. This amount can be taken back when you exit. Okay, the second component, interest, this is to the bank. So this is a cost. Okay, this is your cost. Now, why at this point in time you may think, why I buy property? And I mean, maybe you've thought ahead of the whole equation already, and you think, why do I pay this interest cost? Is it worth it or not? Because every month I pay 2.3k, adds up to, let's say, over a couple of years. Actually, it's also 100 over 1,000 already. So why am I borrowing to spend to buy a property? Is it still investment? And the logic is simple, because if assuming 2.3k, let's say you borrow at interest rates of 2.1%, assuming you borrow some time back, is 2.1%, and inflation, let's say I put it at 3% inflation. If this is what you have borrowed, 2.1%, inflation 3%, this means that you are borrowing using money that is cheaper than inflation. Okay, which means to say it's even cheaper than using your own money, because if you use your own money, you are subject to inflation, so to speak. Okay, so it's cheaper than inflation rate. Because of this, you're borrowing cheap money. Okay, therefore it makes sense that using the bank's money that is lower than inflation rate, you use it as a leverage to increase your exposure. If let's say you have 500k, okay, and the market moves 10%, you earn how much? You earn 50k, just for simplistically writing. But if with leverage, which in Singapore is a 75% loan component, maximum loan to value, 500k can get you a 2 million property. Okay, 2 million means to say at 10%, you are actually, if there's a 10% in market movement, you're actually profiting 200k. Okay, so getting loan allows you to control a bigger asset value, and as a result, when market moves, you get to potentially gain a bigger profit. Okay, so this is the reason why people use loan to buy property. Okay, so this part over here, we have gone through your entry cost, and then we go through your holding cost. Now, one more thing I like to note here is that when you talk about monthly mortgage, I lump it under holding cost, but it really depends. Okay, principal here, if you see it as a savings, it's not a cost. But if you see it as money that can be parked somewhere else for investment, then yes, it can be an opportunity cost that you are not. This is not a cost, but having saving this principal amount in the property also means that every month 2.3k you can park somewhere else, but you did not. Okay, but that being said, without this principal and interest component that makes up the monthly mortgage, you cannot appreciate any growth in the property market. So all these have to be taken in the whole context, the whole consideration when it comes to your property's appreciation. It really boils down to what your goals are, what you want. But back to here is that your holding cost, your principal is a forced saving in a way if you stay in the unit yourself. If you rent it out, it means you're buying a second property for investment, then your interest and principal, this principal component becomes actually profit. Because if let's say your property is 4.6k monthly mortgage, and the tenant pays a rent of 4.6k, assuming we don't talk about property tax MCST first, just for simplistically calculating now, if the tenant pays 4.6k in rental and your monthly mortgage is 4.6k, then your tenant will pay for interest, which is cost to the bank, your cost required to get the return on investment when you exit the property in the future, if you so do to plan for an exit, and your tenant is also paying your principal, which if back then, remember, if you were staying in your property, it's your own contribution, your own savings, a kind of forced savings. But now that the tenant is paying for you, it's external input of capital. So this principal amount becomes your additional profit. So this is just one more thing to note for property, especially if you're buying a property that you do not have to stay in it, right? And you decide to rent out, this is a huge benefit. Okay, now third, right? Now that we have covered that, third, I want to talk about your exit costs. Now, what are the exit costs that are involved? Of course, we have your legal fee, because every buy and sell, a transfer of your title and all that requires conveyancing, right? Maybe in future AI will overtake this and we don't need to pay legal anymore. And then you have your agency or your agent fee. Okay, so when you exit, these two are concerned. Then net you will have your cash proceeds that you receive when you exit. So when you exit, you have your cash proceeds. Cash proceed includes what? Includes your principal and your profit, included the principal, whether paid by you or your tenant. Okay, so this sums up when you buy a property, what are the components? Component recap, entry costs, holding costs, and exit costs. When you structure any property purchase in this manner, it becomes very clear, okay, how to deal with your numbers. Because many a time, what I do understand is that these numbers may not be drilled down to this extent. Okay, so now with this, I hope it has given you an overview on whether is it worth to buy a private property. If let's say you would like to see how the numbers breakdown is for any of your private property purchase, you can comment down in the comments below. I'll be able to do a breakdown video for you to help you see the overall from a helicopter view. Alright, so with this, this is Mr. Joshua Tan. If the video has been helpful, like, subscribe, and put any other content that you'd like to see in the comments below, and I'll see you around.